Welcome to today's webinar, Prep Not Panicked, ADHD-Friendly Career Strategies for Uncertain Times. My name is Julianne. I am the Director of Outreach and Communications at the Chesapeake Center. Thank you all for joining us today. I am here with Bruce Hughes. Bruce is our adult ADHD and executive functioning and career coach at the Chesapeake Center. Just a little bit about Bruce. He holds a bachelor's in business administration and management from Strayer University and a master's degree in organizational leadership and learning with a concentration in adult education and human development from George Washington University. Currently, he is pursuing a master's in social work at the Catholic University of America. And Bruce is just a wonderful coach and resource for so many of our clients at the Chesapeake Center, with that extra focus on career navigation, and with his background in, like I mentioned, organizational development, leadership, all of that, he brings that to us today. So thank you and welcome everyone, and welcome Bruce.
Thank you, Julianne. Hi, everybody. I want to just kick things off by acknowledging that, echoing Julianne's comments, that this is a stressful time for many people. Job stuff is stressful, like on its own, like just talking about resumes and interviews and LinkedIn and having to do it at a time where like the job market feels tight. There's not a lot of great news coming out about jobs. I realize I don't know, might be kind of sensitive to talk about. So I appreciate you all taking the time out to be here. And my goal is to always to share at least one thing that you didn't know already, maybe remind you of something that you knew you should be doing, that you could do to help improve your overall career journey. Let's get started here. I'm Bruce again.
There he is.
One of the things I enjoy about my job is helping folks figure out the question of like, is it me or is it this job? Like that's a question I've asked myself often in other jobs that I've had, whether they've been in roles in human resources or change management or project management. And I'm not the coach to I do give like apps and suggestions as they come up, but I'm not a like quick hit, like tell me what app to use to solve my problem. That's not really my style. I find that it's helpful to slow things down and that question of like, is it me or the job? To really think about like, what about my life right now feels unsustainable? Like work can sometimes feel like this punishing thing that we have to do. And depending on how close to retirement you are, you may have 10, 20, 30, 40 more years to work. And you might get the feeling of, oh, shoot, if this sucks now, like how will I sustain this for the remainder of my life? And I like to remind everyone that you have certainly not to downplay your current situation, but we all have an opportunity to design and to build what we want out of life. And so throughout this presentation, I will share some of the tools that I've used myself that have helped me think about my career not as this static thing or think of myself as like just a resume, but a person with a rich tapestry of experiences and um, uh, skills and abilities that I can small p or big P pivot to any direction that I need to. Uh, Sometimes we come into this discussion at like two ends of the spectrum, and I've experienced both of these before. There is sometimes the struggle of like just getting out of bed and getting started with the day. I remember a time where I was in a role that was one of the best roles that I had at that point in my life. But I woke up one morning and could not get out of bed. Like I just could not move. And my mind was racing and it was like, we cannot do this another day, right? Like we got to figure something out. And sometimes, you know, you can shake that feeling off if you like go, you shower, maybe you eat breakfast and you start working and you're like, oh, I feel better. Well, this was a feeling that didn't leave. And sometimes it was so loud in my head about like, this isn't it, Bruce. Like there's something else you should be doing. You're not happy here. You don't feel like this work is meaningful or you aren't satisfied. It's so loud that it was like actually hard to hold conversations and listen to people because in my brain, like it's somewhere else because the moment at work feels so painful because I'm like, this doesn't feel aligned with who I am. Some of you might experience the other spectrum of this. I've also been here too, where you put in all the work, you get the degrees and the certifications and licenses and experience, you get the title, you get the money, and the reason I chose this picture is because I'm not sure if this woman is like laughing or crying. People will say like, "Oh my God, look at you, you're doing so well." And externally you're like, "Oh, I am." But inside you're like, "Ugh, there's something that's still off, you know?" And that's maybe even a more painful feeling to seem to have all of the trappings or the signs of success, but there's still a bit of emptiness inside that suggests, maybe I'm not fully in alignment with what I want to do. I find that a lot of people are in this position when they've got to a certain level or certainly making a certain amount of money, and then you realize, oh, this thing that I do every day, I don't even like that much. Like, and the thing that I want to do won't pay me enough to sustain my life. And like, what do I do? Well, this is where some of the career coaching comes in. But I'm actually going to add some more elements to this just to paint an accurate picture. And I'm thinking that some of you will find yourself in this storm now, or have felt this before. There is a feeling of, there can be a feeling of like discontent and kind of general unhappiness that can kind of settle in. But you think, hey, I'm working. I should be grateful for my job, especially when you hear about news of people getting laid off or losing their jobs altogether. You think, who am I to say, oh, I can't get out of bed to do my work, or like, I'm not following my passion? That could sound really selfish at times when you are looking around and you're seeing dominoes fall for people. I mean, this happened for me. I used to work at Department of Ed for 7 years. And every well, not every administration. There were some administrations that came in and they were like, oh, we're going to shut down Department of Ed. And that was sort of like a calling card to get folks rallied for whatever reason. And you thought, oh, that would never happen. And then it happened. And my LinkedIn is a sad reel of people who I know who are hardworking, highly educated, very skilled, who are like looking for employment. So if you have a job and you're thinking, oh, I really should be more grateful. I should hang on to this. It might also be colored by your experience with ADHD. The What I hear from the clients that I work with is that often they've experienced job loss before, and they don't always know like why it happened. And they thought, oh, I thought I was doing fine, but like I wasn't. And we get a lot of messages from a neurotypical world that something is wrong with us or the way that we work or manage our energy. And so when you finally get to a role that you don't hate and the people don't hate you, again, you're like, oh man, like, should I really be thinking about leaving or thinking about what else there is for me to do? Well, I want to tell you a few things. First, wanting better is totally normal. This does not make you ungrateful to want to improve the quality of your life. I talk like this is about careers, but careers is a component of your overall kind of life satisfaction. And so when the career is out of alignment, it can feel like everything kind of sucks. So there's nothing wrong with wanting to make improvements, whether they be incremental or significant ones. Like, who can fault you for wanting to live a better life that's more connected to your values and more aligned with who you are? I think it's also important to keep in mind that at least quarterly, but sometimes more often, your boss is meeting with their boss to discuss the future of the company, right? They are talking about revenue and expenses, and they're talking about business decisions. And while I don't want to inflict unnecessary fear, there is the reality that at some level, you might be a business decision for someone. It's not to say you're not a hardworking employee or that you're a bad person, but you don't want to be left without a plan for a job when your job's plan is to no longer have you in that role. So it's important, maybe now, it's always important. I won't say more than ever for you to, on a regular basis, and this is what we'll talk about today, be thinking about your career and those things like, you know what? I should be updating my resume. Or like, I got something that I needed to add to LinkedIn and I didn't do it. Like, there is a way to build this into a structure you likely already have so that you don't feel like you are panicking when things are happening. Like that added anxiety of, I didn't do this thing that should have been doing, and now I need to do, like, we don't have time for that. We have enough anxiety already just from like managing ADHD on a regular basis. So some parts of our life, let's add some structure and control to so that it doesn't feel quite so overwhelming.
Yeah. I will also just say, like, the business decisions happen. Like, part of, I mean, the main reason we are offering this is just because of what is happening even in our area with like the federal layoffs and everything and how quickly that did happen. So even if you had a plan or didn't have a plan and it happened so quickly, like these strategies we hope will be helpful for you to like pick up the pieces a little bit and feel like you can develop a plan right now.
Exactly. The first thing I want to, a paradigm shift I want to offer is when we talk about careers, especially like if you think about your resume, it can feel like you are like this collection of jobs. And I think we all have had experiences where our job description does not capture everything that we actually do in those roles. And so, what I would encourage you to do is to think broadly about your all of the experiences that you had at a specific employer. Because the more substantial your base or your foundation, the bigger launching pad you have to go other places. Now, this is not to say that I don't want you to, this is not necessarily making a pivot. This is just opening up the possibilities for the type of work that you want to do. And what I find is for folks with ADHD, and this is a common occurrence, during an intake, I'll ask, well, tell me what your jobs have been and what your strengths were. We will talk about a strength, but it's almost always followed by a negative or a weakness. Like, I did do this, but this thing happened, or I did this, but it still took me a long time to do. And we've encoded these memories not as successes or achievements in our brain. We've actually encoded them as things that went wrong. So, a big part of what I see in coaching and what I'll encourage you all to do in the work that we do later in this webinar is to recode those positive messages and achievements in your brain with a lot more detail. You can call this what you want to, but A term I've been using recently is a brag book. And this is a place where it's connected to your resume, kind of practically speaking. So if you think of it as having multiple pages, the first couple of pages are your brag book, where you talk about or reflect on first a specific achievement and all of the effort that it took to get there. How did you how did you prevent bad things from happening? How did you support good things to happen? Like, what specifically did you do? What were the people around you doing? What did you feel? What was the environment like? Like, having these really rich stories and dismissing the negative stuff helps you encode these in a way, one, that gives you confidence, and two, that allows you to speak really fluently about them in an interview or when you are making a pitch to someone. I use pitch, but I feel like it's less about it's like, oh, I have to make this 30-second elevator pitch. And having a conversation with someone, when you have done the work to analyze, like really internalize, I use a lot of I's words, but these are all important, and synthesize what you've done. It's not this like lofty resume language. It's real. And when you talk to people, especially the people who are looking for what you offer, that's what's going to come through. And they're going to say, oh, I can tell this person really understands who they are, the value that they bring, and what's important to them. There are some exercises that I will walk through once we get there that can help you do that, but wanted to give you that bit about the brag book. I think if there's one thing that I would recommend you do is probably, if you don't already, start that list of accomplishments. There's practical purposes for like abbreviating that, putting it in the resume, using it to answer a behaviorally based interview question in an interview. But more than anything, it gives you the confidence to say, oh, yeah, I am a badass. Because sometimes we get messages that, or we encode messages that we aren't.
I also think, just to comment on that, the resume itself, like I feel like even if I'm interviewing interview or interns, like the resume, we've already read it. So like I love the practicing how you're actually talking about it and bringing it to life a little bit.
Yeah.
Um, and then I will also say like the imposter syndrome is so real too of what do I do? Like if you even look at like the job description that you have for your current role, like there's just a lot of, with the ADHD mind in particular,
Yeah.
negative components of that. Like I do that, but like you said,
Hmm.
so
Hmm.
I appreciate the like brag book. I think that's such a wonderful concept.
Oh, cool. Well, I will invite you to make sure that.
Yes.
Uh, One other thing before we get to the rest is talking about, as it relates to ADHD, the fact that we have interest-driven brains. I have one of my best friends. I was in a job where I was making maybe more money than I had ever made. And I won't say I was miserable, but I like wasn't happy. And he was like, this job, are they paying you every 2 weeks? And I was like, yeah. And he was like, well, what's the problem? And I thought, oh, I somehow forgot that some people can, either by choice or by maybe a lack of choice, say, it's enough for me to have a job that's consistent and that pays the bills and allows me to feed and provide for my family. And I don't think anything's wrong with that. And I feel like that's like a lot of what our parents they did. But I also feel, this is my personal belief, that that's kind of sad because I'm like, we're going to work for so long. Like I have to find a way to make this like be meaningful or my soul is going to be crushed. And that's not just me. A lot of folks with ADHD, or any ADHD folks on the call, like your special interests and the things that really light your fire, those are clues. Like these, it can feel like sometimes they are distractions to like pull you away from what you're working on. But that's because what you're working on, you don't really care about. It's like not that exciting or engaging. So a big part of what I think the career strategy is, this is an inside out thing. This is a let me really take the time to figure out like what I really enjoy and what I am good at. Everything that we are good at, we don't necessarily enjoy doing. And so, what I try to have my clients do and what I try to do in my own life, thankfully, I found a job that is aligned now, coaching, but in your current role, to find ways to inject the energy or the interest that's maybe not there on the surface. I always think there's a way to do anything. You just have to kind of figure it out, which is the fun experimentation part. But maybe I think the most important thing I want to share here is I the path for everyone is different, but I don't think if you have that feeling of, oh, it's too late to follow my passion or this thing that I really want to do, like I can't do because I don't know, I'm not good at math or, it's too late or it'll be too hard. I'm like, hopefully you live a long time and you want to be able to look back and say, you know what, I gave it a good effort. The longer you wait, in your 40s, your 50s, your 60s, it's harder, still possible, but harder to make those pivots and enact those changes to get you closer to what you want. So think about in small ways, how can you get just a little bit closer to feeling connected to your job, not just like the keys that you're typing, but either a connection to the ultimate end user, so the customer of your product, a connection to the social, financial, mental, physical impact, positive impact you are creating in the world. Like finding something that can, if you're not in an interest-driven career right now, I found that there's usually a way to like make a connection to find something about it that you're like, this is a reason for me to temporarily, it doesn't always have to be this way, fight to get out of bed or to quiet that voice down that says, what are you doing? You don't belong here. And it can be more of, oh, you found a way to work for this now, or to have this work for you now, while you take the time to figure out what you really want in the future. The first activity I will suggest for every, or wait, this is the second activity I'll
I've
suggest.
lost track, and we're only at the second, I think.
Um, is this is a concept from um, Bill Burns, David Evans, maybe. There's a book called Designing Your Life. And it is about, it's like a career coach's dream book because it reminds you that, like, when you get out of school, especially a highly structured school, yeah, you go to undergrad, maybe grad, maybe post grad, and you get a job and you're like, oh, I'm gonna get this job and I'm gonna move up. And this is just like what we do, right? There's not a lot of always intentional design or building what you want. And somewhere in there, for a lot of us, the thought of you can have what you want gets knocked out of you by life, or by messages that we receive from people about our capacity and what we're able to do, and things we start to believe that are true about ourselves that might not be. So I'm a firm believer that you can and should be intentional about, okay, like not negating all of the work you've done to get here, but I have an opportunity to make changes, right? I have an opportunity to make changes. Does it mean the changes will be massive and change everything right away? But you're not stuck. I'm a believer that stuck is a mindset, and there's always even a tiny way to move forward in a consistent way. Where to move forward, though, from the book Designing Your Life, they have these examples of these dashboards. And sometimes what manifests as a discontent with the job is in some ways a projection of what we feel, or like a dissatisfaction with life that we feel that's easy to attribute to work. Our brain, bless its heart, is always trying to figure out like how to solve stuff, who's responsible, what went wrong. And it's easy to say, you know what, like I need a new job, but which might be true, but it's possible you might need to have more fun to start. And when I say fun, I mean not like I play piano and I take it very, very seriously. Sometimes that's not fun. Fun means like here's something that I do just because I enjoy doing it, not to be good at it, not to improve some other skill. Although while you are having fun, you are actually strengthening your creative problem solving muscles. But I would encourage you first to look at where in my life do I actually have fun? Like think about it. Like where in your life do you have fun right now where like on your own or with other people maybe, you're doing something just for the sake of doing it without a real goal, but it brings you pleasure and you enjoy it.
It's so funny because I did not, I think, like I always say, like I have no hobbies or anything like that. But also just even the hobbies and stuff, it's like stuff that you want to be good at. And so when I think about having fun, like my 18-month-old Joe, playing with him, like that, I'm like, I don't
Mhm.
think I had fun the few years before I had you. Like you, like it's fun, you know? So that's so interesting.
And let's say you have enough fun in your life, which I don't think most people are having enough fun, but that's my personal belief, might not be true. Um, could be in relationships and love. This could be maybe like work can only provide so much for us, and we can have very meaningful, professional, hopefully, relationships at work. But in terms of romantic love, platonic love for our friends and other folks in our lives, um, if we're like heads down building something or helping someone else build something, we can neglect those relationships. And that feeling of something's off might not be work at all. It might be I'm not connected to people. Like it's so easy to live with a partner and like you're doing your work during the day, especially, or you have pets or children to take care of throughout the day or in the evening, that you forget, like, oh, there was a reason why 10 years ago I met this person and fell in love with them, but none of that's being cultivated right now. Or if you're single and not mingling, you can put all of your time and effort into work right now, but like, I mean, a part of this whole presentation came from like, you don't know what's going to happen. So that's a risk to expect to get all of your relational, familial needs met through a job. that might make a business decision that they don't need you there anymore. Uh, but let's say you have fun. Let's say you have strong relationships. That whispering voice of something is off might be about your health. I'm not here to beat you over the head. We all know we're supposed to be getting a lot more sleep, eating a lot more fruits and vegetables, exercising a lot more. But like at some point, your inner world, so like how you treat your body, how you treat your mind, that is going to be reflected in your outer world. And so there's only so long you can go like working really hard and people pleasing and being a perfectionist and trying to get everything done before something's going to break or shut down. I will say that, and I think it's important to drive this part home, sleep, exercise, and nutrition are incredibly important for all of us, not just for people with ADHD, but for people in general. So if this is striking a chord with you, just pick one small thing that you could do tonight or, well, yeah, like start implementing habits right away that can make an improvement in this area. Maybe go to sleep 5 minutes earlier, maybe turn off your phone 5 minutes before you go to sleep. Like I'm a big burger guy, so it's like maybe I'll get a salad instead of fries once, you know. Think about the small change you could make, because those add up to big things over time. Uh, Final element though, because we're talking about work. Let's say fun, you're like, okay, I have plenty of fun, Bruce. My relationships are like in tip-top shape, and my health is doing like it's going swimmingly. Like it's the job. Um, We got a couple of ways to approach this, which I will share on the very next slide. Oh, hang on. Oh, I saw some people were
Yeah, we have some wonderful
um
chat.
making. Oh, yeah, I want to get here.
So someone did talk. So the Designing Your Life by Bill Burnett and David Evans.
Thank
So
you.
that's the book. There we go. Thank you. Someone said I love baking. Writing's my job, but I love it. I would do it for free, which I do a lot anyway.
Mm,
Someone just mentioned taking charge of your health before it takes charge of you.
mm,
And then music is something I always wanted to do, but never took lessons and feel intimidated. I think that is part of it too, is like I like tying into all of this, like there is the uncertainty, which like ties into like intimidation, fear, like what does the next chapter look like? And I like that you even said big P and little p when you talked about pivots, because it's not probably gonna be the perfect pivot either. Like it's probably a few little p's. And I
hmm
also read this interesting article that I need to find about how, like you said, like our parents and back in the old days, I feel like you did have a job and a career that was at one place and you just kind of went up the ranks and that was it. And the article that I read said something, I can't remember the exact number, but that's not the case these days in this world.
hmm
And that the majority of people have an average of, I think it was like 6 to 7 careers or like
Yeah.
jobs that, so it's very interesting. Um, so just commenting on the intimidation
Thanks.
piece is that you're not alone, but I think that that's part of this is that we need to kind of take a little bit of a little pee, a little pivot, a little dip a toe in the water of something new.
Perhaps. Yeah, we got a couple strategies you can
Yeah.
take. Valerie, I agree. Yeah. It's not too late. It's only too late if you're not breathing. Emma, I will be 40 in June, and I made my last career pivot last year. And it was like a middle P. It wasn't a huge P, but it was like, woo. Um, but I will tell you and Valerie, thank you for posting the book again. The resilience and the confidence you get out of doing something that terrifies you, like getting a new job, starting your own business, there is that moment of, oh no, what did I do? Like things were they weren't perfect, but they were better than this. Like the way my checking account is looking, like what was I thinking? And I think you can't get out of those. Most of us can't get out of those moments because we don't have seed money coming from folks. But I'll tell you, like the confidence I have now from throughout my life of like, oh, I think there's a leap that I need to take or promotion I need to go for, whether or not I got it, like who I became in the process of preparing for that is something that goes in my brag book and it goes in my memory. And in moments when I feel like, how am I going to do this? I remember, oh, I am strong and I can handle this, which is one of my mantras, or I am smart and I can figure this out because I've done it before. So I don't want to downplay that the fear or any kind of intimidation, but facing it like on the other side, that's some strength and courage and determination nobody will ever be able to take away from you. And the next time you're in a situation where you're like, oh snap, what do I do? Your brain will say, ah, we've done something like this before. We've creatively solved problems before. We're going to be able to figure this out.
Are you
Um,
reading the chat too?
I
Um,
am taking a look just
yeah.
to see.
So we had so basically I'll be 54 in August, terrified and exhilarated to pivot, a necessary, sorry, just another one came through. Um, Pivot given that her sector has been destroyed in the past few months. It is an emotional roller coaster. I absolutely agree. Um, Question for you, Bruce. What if you've done several career changes and now you're back to the drawing board? Feels
Feels
like
like
I'm
you're constantly changing. Hmm. I wouldn't say that you're back to the drawing board because you've been here before, but you've not been here before. Like you gain some additional experiences along the way that you are back at this point, but with more knowledge and more wisdom. I will say that it did feel like for a while I was constantly changing. I would get a job that I worked hard for, and I was like, did a lot of research for. I would get that job, and then I don't know, once the newness wore off, maybe 6, 9 months in, I'm like, oh, I don't know if I like this as much as I thought I did. And so I'd be working a job, but then like also have my eye toward like other jobs. So I'm like in one job, like, but thinking about the other jobs that I want. And then it turns into this weird like resentment for my current job, the one that I'm in right now. I'm like, oh, I can't stand this job and I want to be doing this other thing. And then I get that job, and then the same thing happens. And I'm like, oh man, I thought this was going to be different this time. That was my 20s and a big chunk of my 30s. So I ended up in every role, like not liking it because I had my eyes set on something else that when I got that wasn't even like that didn't solve the problem. So, I mean, to answer the question of like, you're back at the drawing board, I don't think you're at a different drawing board. I would, and there's an exercise. I think the brag book could be helpful for this, but it could also be, there's a lot of rich data you got from those work environments about what you like and what you don't like in terms of your orientation toward working in a team. Like, how much of a risk taker are you? Your propensity for leadership, your the types of problems that you like to solve. Are they more conceptual? Are they more practical? Do you want somebody to give you something with your hands and you turn it into something different? Or are you like me and do you want to ideate and think and philosophize? I think breaking down those, looking at it through a lens of what did I learn about myself? And then how can I wrap that into who I am now could be one way. But I think I'll also say, I'll just empathize with that drawing board feeling because I've, you know, chased a job. And that's why I asked that question. Like, at some point, you're like, damn, is it me or is it this job? Because I keep making these things. I thought I made this with my best thinking. Like, this was my best thinking that got me here. And now you're telling me, um, I'm having this familiar feeling. Ugh.
Yeah.
Um, so I think that is a way to lead into, and we can come back to the chat in a second. I thank you all for sharing
Yeah.
these, like your experience here, and I appreciate the support that others are giving in the chat. Like this is hard stuff. Oh my gosh, it is. Wait, we're over at. I want to make sure I have time to go through. Um,
Yes, we end at 1:15.
okay.
This will be recorded. We don't have like a hard stop at 1:15 either if anyone wants to hang out, but
Yeah, and then I'll come back to these comments from around 12:44-ish. So we talked about, oh, maybe you need to have more fun. Maybe there's an improvement in relationships you can make. Maybe there's a health improvement you can make. Or maybe you're like, I actually need to do something different at my job. My first, the first, as I'm going up this triangle, at the bottom we have pause. And just to kind of slow down and observe things before doing anything. What do I mean by observe? Um, and this presentation is targeted toward people who have a job right now, although this is still a helpful skill to be scanning and to see like how, I don't want to frame the question that way, but this is a question that popped in my head. How worried do I want to be? Like, are we having more meetings about vague goals that aren't being met? Like, am I sensing like economic instability in my company? Something I always used to do was to look at the jobs that were posted, like where I was working. Like, is my job posted? Are other jobs posted? Are we like building or like are we just replacing people? Like, and maybe the best thing that I did, because I'm not someone to, sometimes I can kind of miss the big picture. There were smart people who always seemed to know like where the puck was headed. You know, like if a new department or if a department was going to be axed or a new position was going to be created, I'd be like, how did you know? Like I totally missed that. Because some people just have that ability to see something, classify it really quickly, and often be right. So if you find yourself in a situation where you're like, I don't always trust my judgment, like try to find a smart person or talk about it with a smart friend, smart in this area because they may not be smart in others, but you just need them to like do a temperature check. Like, this is what I'm seeing. Like, does that mean anything? Or like, should I be doing something different? You might decide after that pause that the goal is to plan. Like, you know what? I trust these people. I like these people. This is not to say that you aren't going to do these strategies that we talk about here. Like, you still need to do the work of being able to, the internal work of the career strategy, which is being able to articulate who you are, what you do, what you're good at, why that matters. But if you make the decision, you can say, you know what? I think I want to plant here for a while and grow, or stay at the same position. And even staying at the same position, there are ways that you could expand your job, maybe to get more experience in an area that you're curious about. So it's not like staying and being stagnant, but it's a decision to stay where you are. You might decide that you need to pivot. And if I did this right, there should be a small P on this slide because not every pivot is like, I'm an electrician and now I'm becoming an anesthesiologist. Like there's, cords and veins and it'll be the same. This is like sometimes it is like you can have your North Star of like where you are headed, but you might need a few different jobs to get there. I forgot which person I was responding to in the chat, but when I started, I was in financial aid, and then I became a policy analyst at one job, and then I was like really interested in human resources, and that was what I was in school for. And I was like, oh, I think I want to do this full time. And then while I was doing that, I realized, oh, people can't manage change. So then I went to the change management route and I got certifications there. And then I was like, oh, but we still need to know how to do it. Like we don't know how to do it. And I was like, oh, this is project management. So so then I went down the project management route. And it wasn't until somebody asked me, like, what do you do with all of this? That I thought, oh, I I've been following my interest. I never really thought like, oh, like what do I do with all of this? But now in my role, I have learned, especially this role, I bring all of that with me. So I use project management if I'm helping someone build a weekly planning schedule, or if we need to break activities down into smaller steps, or I'm like, oh, the number of times I have done progressive elaboration on a project to come up with the task and activities and sub-activities, like I know how to do that. I have an understanding of the change curve, so I know like if you are for my folks who are mid to senior level executives who have to coach other people through change, I can bring in my change management hat. I'm always wearing my HR hat, like one that I'm wearing now. So I found a role that allows me to like use all of the skills that I already had. Those were some cases small P, medium P pivots, but ultimately the goal, which in the back of my mind was to coach and be a clinician. Like now that I am here, I have the ability to use all of those skills. And you might find though that it's not planning. You're like, I'm not staying here. I don't know that I want to make a pivot. I want to start a full job search. Like, so that's the strategy to pursue. My recommendation is to think about everybody for sure, pause, especially if you got ADHD, ADHD before we make any kind of impulsive decisions. Like, I have felt that feeling of I can't take this one more day. I'm ready to put in my resignation letter right now. Take a breath. If you are there, the interesting thing is you are taking more minutes of it right now. That's something your brain is telling you, but you have the capacity to do it. It's uncomfortable and it's going to force you to grow into a person that you aren't right now. But long term, that's going to be better for you because it's increasing your overall capacity to handle hard things. That said, regardless of the strategy here, or if the strategy is to work on love or fun or health, the maybe next most important thing, and I think after this slide, I'll stop to see if we have more questions, is we gotta have time to think about these things, right? Very often we have a thought and we're like, oh, I should do this thing, right? But then we get distracted or we gotta like, we get pulled into something. If, like, you have to make this work for you to make it consistent. But, and if your strategy is to like pursue a new job, to pivot, this might need to be something that you do or return to on a weekly basis. This could be something that you do bi-weekly, monthly, quarterly. Annually doesn't feel like enough to me for it to make sense, but it might work for you. Like you want to think about a time to devote to activities related to the pursual or the pivot or the planting or the other parts of the dashboard. Like this way you have a container. So you're like, oh, I want to do my resume and I want to update LinkedIn and I want to do all these other things. And it's like, oh, I have time set aside in my week for this to happen. I would say if you aren't already doing this kind of thing, maybe choose 30 minutes. That might even feel like it's too much. If I say 30 minutes and you buck, do 10. But I'm going to say 30 minutes. And I don't necessarily think you got to do this all at the same time. Like, I'll tell you, because I got ADHD. I don't know if I shared that. When I'm putting these presentations together, in my mind, I'm like, oh, I just need to find the perfect 4 hour window on my calendar that I could block off and kind of move through this in a very linear way. And that never happens. And then the stress builds up like, Bruce, you got to do this presentation. You're like, you have not worked on this. And like what I've learned how to do, and this is what I tell people to do all day, but this shows you that even the experts who talk about these things can still struggle. It's like I got 5 minutes here, I got 10 minutes here. I live next to Strathmore, and I see lots of times that parents are like in their cars. There's a ballet school down below, and I think, oh, like maybe you have 5 minutes while you are waiting in the school pickup line, or you have 10 minutes while you're waiting on your son to get his hair cut, or you got like, I don't know, 15 minutes while you wait on your door dasher to show up. Like the 30 minutes, or if you want to expand it to an hour or more, I would say it does not have to be all at the same time. It can equal that, but you need to have the time set aside to do the work that I'm going to talk through in a second. This way, you think of it as this is the project manager in me, sort of like a backlog of things that you want to do. And as you have time available, you can kind of bring over one of those things from the backlog to the actual list of things that you are working on that day. Please, 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 if you don't have time set aside to devote to the strategy, try to find a time to do it. It could be when you are paying bills. It could be like, I don't know, in between, like, oh, you dropped your kids off at the grandma's house or something, and you got like just like the time is important. Or else we end up in a situation where we're like, you know what? I should have been doing that. Like, why didn't I? Right? If nothing else, use that as a motivator to get it done right now. Like, you don't, one of the worst feelings for me is to get to the end of something, like whether it's a half marathon or a webinar or a presentation, and to think, oh, you know what, I could have done more, but I like didn't find the time. So I'll get off that horse because I feel like I've been there for a while. Hang on, I can't see my
Perfect.
screen.
Um, the making it manageable, which you mentioned.
Oh, I just talked about this.
Yep. And
Oh,
AI assistance, I really do feel like that's so helpful. I know that I've recently started using it much more, just like ChatGPT and certain things. But yeah, I think also one interesting thing that Dr. Nadeau, our founder here, mentioned, I think one of our other clinicians here had the idea, but if you're looking for jobs, you can like plug the job ad into ChatGPT to come up with kind of what you can ask it, like what type of candidate, what things should I mention if I'm interviewing for this job? Or even if you have lost your job, you have your resume, you can plug your resume into it and say, based on this, what types of jobs would be good for me? I don't know if you're going to mention that. I thought that was the coolest thing ever that she said. I didn't think about it like that. So yeah.
and there is another tool. We'll include this with the when we send this out called Career Dreamer. And I just learned about this from Google. And it's really designed for people who want to make a pivot. interface is to me very easy to like follow along with. The prompts are very easy to like ask you what you do. It'll say, oh, based on your title, do you probably do these things? Is that accurate? Do you do more? And it walks you through the entire process of like figuring out how to make the pivot. Yeah, it's Career Dreamer through Google. I'll make sure we have the link in the follow-up notes.
Yeah, so we'll share those
Um,
resources, but career dreamers, I've not.
careerdreamer.org, and it is pretty cool.
Yeah, I also say, yeah, my AI is just Chat GPT, but there's many, there's Gemini, there's all of that. And um,
What was I gonna, let me get to the
yeah,
files and then we can take questions.
perfect, perfect.
So something I'm also going to include in the, or I'll send you, Julianne, to include is a file structure for you all to use. If you've been sitting down for a long time, maybe it's time to stand up and to stretch, because I've been sitting down and I realized I was feeling a little stiff and I'm trying to close my rings and I got to make sure you can get ChatGPT for free, or you can pay. Um, I find that I pay for it a lot because I use it a lot.
I use free, but yeah.
Um, I'm going to send you all a file structure. It is, yes, Susanna, a file structure where you could keep these documents in one place. So if you got ADHD, it can be hard to stay organized. So I try to take the guesswork out of it and giving you a folder structure you can use. And you can put the documents or tools in there that are going to be most helpful for you. I'm actually going to talk about this on the very next slide. So let me jump there. Oh, no, that's folder one. So there's 5 folders altogether. The I've talked a lot about from going inside out and the challenge of being able to identify what your strengths are and to talk about them confidently. It is so hard to for a lot of us to talk about ourselves, in part because we're like, well, this sounds too good. I really didn't do that. Or sometimes we just can't flip and remember. This is why it's helpful to have in one place your skills, strengths for those feds, like your knowledge, skills, and abilities written down. I also encourage my clients to think about work environments that work best for them and like the ultimate goal of this, oh yeah, I put that in the slide, is to know yourself. So this is sort of like your owner's manual or your SOP on yourself. So you can describe who you are first to yourself, and then when you need to tailor it for other audiences or other people, you're able to do that. The next folder, it has these components where you've done the internal work. Now you're trying to figure out what's going externally. You can get super in the weeds and very technical with this. I I don't think you have to. To me, this is a like use the career dreamer. This is a Google, a Chat GPT. Hey, I'm curious about this. Like, what are some companies or people or like things that I should uh, uh, handles I should follow on Instagram or TikTok. If you're going to be on Instagram or TikTok or YouTube anyway, like have the algorithm kind of work for you. So at like start following the places and ideas that you're curious about so that you have a pulse on where you think you might want to go. If you are planting, not pivoting or pursuing, you can still do this work for where you are. You don't want to be working one place and be so siloed that you aren't sure of what other people are doing in your field. Like at one point, I was a training and development specialist, and it was a great job. I didn't really have a reason to leave, but I kept my eye on other training and development specialist roles at other companies to figure out like, oh, this certification seems to be very popular, or there's this new term that's popping up in a lot of the job descriptions. Like I should probably figure out what that means. I talked a lot about the brag book. And my recommendation, y'all, is to put this all in one long document. You can use headers. It doesn't have to be one long document. But I just think it's easy to like type out these specific achievements, and then you can like copy and paste it down into a master version of your resume. So we hear about like tailoring your resume for the position, and you're like, well, and now I end up with a lot of resumes. And it's like you have one big, massive resume with all of the bullets, all of the skills. And anytime that you need to apply for a new job, you can, depending on how you set it up, you could save it as a resume for that new job, delete the stuff that you don't need, and everything that's left is there for that job. The only way that works, though, is if you keep a long, kind of running master version of the resume, and above that, you have your brag book. So any kind of work that you need to do around being able to state your accomplishments, um, uh, or well, yeah, to state the accomplishments or try to remember them, it's all in one document or at least in one folder. The next folder has documents that, well, these are things that you will fill out. I think the easiest place to start here with like the first steps, and this is maybe most important for people who are pivoting or pursuing. Like a pivot is risky. Like there's inherent risk. So before you make a jump or a leap, talk to folks who are doing it. Like watch like one low effort way is to watch a webinar on like a day in the life of a occupational therapist. Or like I'll try to find a podcast if there's a job that I'm curious about. Like what do they actually do? Like if you send out messages on LinkedIn 10 times, you'll probably get one person to respond. That's kind of all you need. And you can ask them like, hey, is there anybody else you think I would talk to? And this is not I think it's important to separate. Like, I know there's a desire, like, I want this to turn into a job or a job offer, right? I want to acknowledge that. But this stage is all about fun and experimentation. We're not saying I need to find a job or I'm trying to, I don't know. But I will tell you that the jobs that I have actually gotten were because I knew what I wanted and I happened to talk to the right person and explain like this is what I'm looking for. This is the kind of person I am. And they're like, holy crap, we are looking for somebody who does just that. Like that made it a lot easier than doing that LinkedIn Indeed scroll of like, you look at the jobs and you look at everything that they are requiring that you know how to do, and then you get kind of sad and demoralized and you put out all those applications, you don't get things back. Like it's time out for that. That is not a high yield activity. It's about making connections with people and figuring out who else they know. I'm not saying that you can't ever get a job that way, but it can feel like you're building more because you are more momentum and energy as you are talking to people. Yeah, people talking about you. Like it can feel a little better than I'm gonna put this application out into the universe and see if it comes back with a job offer. And then the final step is a place to document your wins. So again, you would probably put this in your brag book too, but this is a place for, if you're like me, I would consider this to be my brain dump place. And if you do this in Google Docs, you can speak to it. You don't even have to type. You can do a brain dump of like what you're feeling, what you're experiencing, and you can ask if you have an AI tool, like Gemini is now part of Google. But even if you don't have AI, you can read what you wrote. Like sometimes just getting it out of your brain and getting some distance, you're like, whoa, this is what I believe, or this is what I think. That's not helpful or very helpful, and I need to do more of it. So I'll share the file structure with these plans included. My goal, or I would encourage you, don't try to do everything today. Brag book, yes. Trying to find time to come to this on a regular basis, yes, work on that. Some people need additional structure and support. I think that's where coaching can come in. And we also have career assessments here if you're like, I have literally no clue what I want to do, and I want to take a thoughtful, comprehensive approach at like what might be next for me. Career assessments is also an option for you. But I'll stop there so we can get any questions and see what's going on in this chat and we can answer.
Yeah, absolutely. And I will say I've taken our career assessment and it is just eye-opening. Like part of it just tells you kind of what you already know, but it's nice to hear. Again, that imposter syndrome so real. But then, like you said, you could be really good at something, but if you're not interested in it, there's not going to be satisfaction there. So it takes into account that as well. Bruce, are there any apps that you find useful? That was one question.
You know what app I've been using recently that I love is Rosebud.
Interesting. I haven't
It
heard
is
you
an
say that.
AI journaling app, and I mean, you got to be comfortable with AI. I'm fully embracing the robots here. But it's a journaling app and you can talk to it. I'm always looking for things that I don't have to type. I talk to it, I check it in the morning and at night, and it like reminds me of like things that I journaled about before. It was designed by therapists and coaches and psychologists and psychiatrists. So the language that it like speaks back to you like feels familiar to me. I'm a big fan of that. Other apps that I use on a regular basis, because I'm a visual person, I use Trello with the cards. I like being able to move things around and to code things. So I'm a big fan of Trello. If I go to my homepage right now, what apps do I use? I don't use this app as much anymore because I've now changed calendars, but I used to use an app called Structured that I found very helpful because it helped you plan out all of the parts of your day, like getting to a place or coming back from a place that you sometimes would forget, or you're like, shoot, I'm supposed to be over here at one, not where I am right now. And for email, I use the native mail app in iPhone. I've also had a lot of success with an app called Spark because it makes it easy to like delete things or mark things as junk. Um, those are some of the apps that come to mind, but I'm always testing new ones, so I might have a whole different set next month.
And if you have to jump off again, we're going to send this over with all the files, which I love that Bruce mentioned, along with the resources, recording, slides. Bruce, for feds and others who have already been laid off, do you have any recommendations for how to keep moving daily or weekly, especially when ADHD energy is so variable and days are less structured without a formal job?
Mm. Can you read the question again?
Absolutely. For those who have already been laid off, what are your recommendations for how to keep moving daily and weekly? Just keep that momentum going on the job search, but especially if you have ADHD and when the days are less structured.
So I'm curious about the kind of structure that you have in your day already. I would not recommend for an activity like job searching to be doing like some people say, oh, it's like a full-time job finding a job.
Hate
But
that.
I would not do
I
eight
know.
hours. Yeah, I would
Yeah.
not do 8 hours of job search. I probably pick like 3 or 4 hours when you feel like the sharpest to do job work. I think I would divide it up to where I might not do the looking for jobs on the same day that I'm like applying to jobs on the same day that I am like following up for jobs. I break that up maybe throughout the week. Maybe it could be neatly done in a Monday where Monday you're checking the landscape. Tuesday you're narrowing down the places that you want to apply to and you make maybe some changes to your resume or cover letter. Maybe Wednesday you pick a handful, half a dozen jobs that you really want to apply for and you knock that out. You use Thursday to like follow up for jobs, and then you take Friday off maybe to do something that's fun or rewarding. I have a number of friends who were impacted, but he had this hobby of taking pictures everywhere. But we would normally tease him because he was like, God, you take pictures all the time. But he's been into going to like the Arboretum and the what's the flowers that are down by
Cherry blossoms.
yeah. So like something that is like edifying for your soul. I think one way to think about it is the fun, love, work, health dashboard. So you are doing a lot of activities in the work. I would say, can you turn up the dial on the fun? Can you turn up the dial on relationships? So like maybe meeting folks for coffee or meeting them for walks as the weather is getting better. That's also going to be a boost to health. And maybe like a super general ADHD term or strategy. If it feels too hard, it's probably like too big to be doing it right away. So like break it down into smaller, more manageable chunks. Um, to the point where the first, like getting out of bed for sometimes is hard, and it's like maybe the first thing is not, oh, I'm gonna go get a croissant and have a coffee and work from the coffee shop. Maybe the first thing is I'm gonna sit up in bed. And the second thing is I'm gonna take a few deep breaths. I'm gonna put on my house shoes, open the blind, like, like making it so that it feels like, oh, this isn't hard to start at all. That's a very general piece of advice, but it's something that a lot of us have issues with getting started.
I love that. And you mentioned that in one of our other talks about make the steps so simple. Like we talked, the other talk was like about doing the dishwasher and like the whole thing seems overwhelming, but the first step is get off the couch. And I think
Mhm.
that just is so, transferable. So I love that. Also another question. So what if you compile all of your skills and qualifications for a job that may not already exist? For example, Jennifer, thank you for this. She has a background in research, data analysis, financial planning. She's a planner in nature, but she loves music. So, what is a job out there that fits that? I would ask
Mhm.
ChatGPT, but yeah, no background in music though, but music speaks my language. My strengths are in planning and research.
Hmm. So the first thing I'm thinking is like, yeah, you could put that in a prompt, but sometimes it's okay to have a vocation, a hobby that is not something that you're getting paid to do. So I love music. I have a piano behind me, and when I thought about trying to turn this into something that I'm like, oh, like maybe I could play gigs, or it's like, actually, no. Like, I want to be in control of the way that I approach my music. I agree that music can touch stuff and communicate stuff that words can't. And if it's that special to you and you want to protect it and cultivate it, it doesn't have to be a part of your job. That could be a hobby. And if you find that you have multiple things that do that for you, you can pick seasons or periods for hobbies. So, like piano for me, absolutely is like a winter, spring, maybe a little bit of fall thing because I'm in the house a lot. But in the other months, I allow myself, like, I want to be outside, so to speak. And so it's okay for me to play piano less, but I might be doing more content creation, or I might be doing more coloring outside because I love coloring. So if you have multiple hobbies, you could break them up by seasons. I don't think that you have to have everything that you love in your job. And in some ways, that actually adds a lot more value to your life where you might be doing something during the day and then you can totally shift gears and like do something that you really love.
Yeah. Someone else also mentioned that they use accountability a lot. So if doing job searches or things like that, asking a friend to hop on Zoom, body doubling is very real, and that can help a lot. What are your thoughts on that, Bruce?
Yeah, but I mean, body doubling is pretty pretty effective in helping us like get stuff done because we have somebody there modeling what we should be doing. I am like, without knowing everyone's specific approach to job searching, it's tricky because I don't want to give something that might not work. I will say I don't think the people who are on this kind of call are being lazy. And you might feel like you are if you have too many things on your list and you are getting overwhelmed and you need to take a break, and you might feel guilty for taking a break. It doesn't mean that you are lazy. Cannot imagine that people who signed up for this and attended are uh, not putting their best effort out there. But with ADHD, it is about like, how do I work smarter and not because we're already working super hard. Um, my impulse is to say, take a break if you can.
Yeah. Thank you so much, everyone, for all of your just participation in the chat and comments. If you have any other questions, feel free to let us know, but we will be sending this out to you afterwards, along with the resources. Someone asked to kind of summarize some of the key points, which I will also do, along with the I can't wait for those folders. I'm so excited for those folders. So thank you for that, Bruce. And thank you everybody for joining us. We wish you, of course, the best of luck at any stage, whether you are pausing, pursuing, pivoting, and feel free to give us suggestions if you have future topics. But we hope you have a wonderful day, and thanks for spending your lunch break with us today.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.